Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Animal Kingdom. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I do love the whole Craig and Darren thing. Once again, it's been built up for a while over the course of the season, and just like the last episode was the fever pitch of just like everything that could go wrong did go wrong. They ended up brawling it out, both of them pretty sore after everything went down. And then we also see the culmination of everything that Ren's been up to. Kind of a continuation of last season, and it seems like a lot of it's been happening off screen this season. Kind of some of the business she got mixed up in, and it kind of puts her on the opposite ends of like some not kind of like skinhead like bad guys who are kind of in the drug game as well. She's kind of stepping in their territory. They beat Ren up and they take Nick. And Craig turns to one person he can turn to is Darren. They couldn't get in contact with Pope. I thought it was interesting that Craig's almost like, I'm not going to take Jay. I don't know whether he was like, yo, shit's going to go down and I don't want to drag Jay into this because he, you know, it's our kid nephew. Like, I don't want to drag him into something like that. Or is it just because it's like, right. I mean, Jay knows how to handle himself, but they've never been, I'm trying to think like, well, because they were all involved in the dealing with the cousins last season. But I was trying to say, like, yeah, because Jay's been in shootouts. He's obviously killed a few people, but I think it's just like Darren was like, Craig wanted probably someone more experienced, and since they couldn't get up with Pope, it's like, right, him and Darren are in this together. So they end up tracking the guys down. They didn't go into this planning to kill anyone because they knocked the first guy out. Darren had to kill the second guy because they were struggling a little bit. Because I guess it's like, right, the less bloodshed, the less payback this will be. Granted, Craig kills the final guy because the guy's like so smug about it. Plus, he saw their faces, so I'm sure the first guy saw their face as well. But I think it's just like, I mean, it's probably more so than anything because Cole is the one who actually took Nick. And so for, like, Craig, the guy was like, oh, this isn't over. And he kills the guy. Eventually, word's going to get out to the rest of his group, his crew. And it's like, right, they're going to have another issue on their hand. I mean, if it's not just the Codys in general. Because, like, people, like, you know who kid you kidnapped. You know not to fuck with the Codys, but you did it anyway. Either they weren't aware of who Ren's, you know, who Nick's dad was and just didn't think about that, or because they're associated with Ren, but they probably don't know about her and Craig's connection, you know, being a Cody and everything, but maybe they do and they just don't care. Either way, when it was all said, I mean, Darren took the bullets, luckily wearing the vest and everything. Good thing they came in this locked and loaded and prepared. I guess the reason why Craig didn't want to take the chance that Darren might shoot the guy is because he wanted to take the chance that the guy might like pop, like a bullet might fly, a bullet may stray and strike Nick. So the moment Nick was no longer in the room, it's like, oh, I don't have to worry about anything. Also it's like, right, that type of stuff will scar a baby. Like, on some psychological level, it will stick with him. So Craig also didn't want anyone to, I think the main, first and foremost, isn't even like a stray bullet. It's about, no, I don't want anyone getting murdered in front of my son. Waited till Darren got Nick out the room and popped the guy. So doubt we're done with that storyline. I'm sure that's going to be something that becomes a lot more prevalent later on. That's going to be a whole lane of issues potentially. But at the same time, like, I do like that. Yeah, once again, the Codys through and through, just like last season, came to fisticuffs, beating the ever-living shit out of each other, and it's like, no, we hug it out, we're good. It's like, because family comes first and foremost, despite our issues, and, you know, Darren, despite, you know, it's like, they've always had this back and forth, ever since, you know, even, Pope was like, yeah, they've always fought like kids, but I think even he was like, yeah, this time was different, or maybe I'm imagining that or something. I think he was just saying, like, right, they've always kind of, came to blows and stuff before, like, they've always kind of butted heads. But, you know, obviously Craig is going to put a lot of that aside because it's like, bro, you were there for me. You had my back. And I think for Darren, it kind of closes some of that distance he's been feeling with Craig lately. I think that's why he's been kind of like talking bad shit to Craig, and the reason why he's been acting the way he has. Because, once again, out of any of them, Craig is the one he's closest to. Darren's the person that Craig is closest to. They're fine with, like, Jay and Pope. I still would say, like, it's Darren and Craig are like each other's number one. Pope would be number two, and then Jay would be number three. And they'd probably never admit that. I'm sure it'd even go like Baz and then Jay, but regardless. we do see at the very end, though, Craig is back home with Ren. And at the end of it all, like, he's like, right, you're a tough guy, like, being brave like that, just like a Cody. And he kind of breaks down at the end, and both him and Ren, like, together, like, he was mad at Ren first, but it's like, right, that's all beside the point. Like, no matter how much I might have been right or whatever about the situation, that doesn't matter. Getting back our son came first and foremost. And it doesn't seem like he's going to try some play of like, oh, I'm going to use this against you. It's like, well, he can't without throwing himself under the bus for the murders and stuff. So it's like, we both kind of fucked up on this parenting thing. We do need to kind of like go back to being a team, and things could have gotten ugly today, and just because of where we are, we let things happen like this. If we had just really been cooperating a lot more, maybe this could have all been avoided, I think is kind of what it's about. So I don't think Ren's going to keep doing what she's doing, and I wonder, this probably sparked it in Craig about like, right, him and Vince, the whole thing about like, right, don't do stupid shit, and with the whole being addicts and everything. And I think this might be the wake up call. This might be Craig being like, you know what, I'm gonna get out of this, because this life, not just what Ren was up to, even when I try to be smart, that things could always go wrong. You mitigate the problems as much as possible, but I think this life that they live, especially as a Cody, is too rough that I don't think he wants to drag a child in this. His half sister did everything to avoid keeping Jay around the family, so it might be a thing where Craig might start feeling that too, like, right, and like, Julia might have had the right idea, and I'm not going to raise my son up in this world. What happened, that wasn't just on Ren, that's our world in general too, so it might change how Craig approaches a lot of stuff going forward. So there's that element. And what's an interesting element, speaking of addicts, we end up having Jay. He goes out with Penny and gets introduced to Penny's sister, which it did seem like there was something, like, cause I couldn't tell whether like Penny's sister was aware of like something going on, and just like the way she was like handling herself and the way Jay was looking at her. But we find out later on, Jay, having been around an addict his entire life, his mom, he recognized it in someone else. It's like, your sister, it's an addict. He's like, yeah, my mom dealt with him. He even says this line I thought was interesting, where it's like, right, you want to do everything you can for them, but then eventually you just kind of accept it and just be their full-blown caretaker. And that's what he was for his mom. He kind of had to be the more responsible person. It's like, oh, did your mom ever get clean? And he was like, no. And I'm sure Penny can extrapolate from that. So what I thought was interesting, too, is this line later on where she was like, oh, it must be nice growing up in this house. Jay doesn't say anything. We don't know if he'll end up opening up to her at the end or not, but I thought that was fascinating. He just looks and he doesn't say anything, because he didn't grow up in this house. He only did recently a couple years ago after his mom died, but his mom did everything. She grew up in this house, but he didn't. She purposely made sure to get him as far away from this that part of her family and just everything associated with it. But she just couldn't face her demons, and they ended up sadly getting the best of her. Because she tried to drown everything out with drugs. And there's also the interesting, but staying on that subject, it's interesting how the whole Penny and Jay thing, it's like, yeah, he likes her, she likes him, but it's also like, once again, like, you could find someone that's not married, but to be fair, once again, none of his past relationships have worked out in the grand scheme of things, especially mixed up in this world. And are you willing to drag another outsider into this because it didn't work out for you before? It kind of blew up in your face before him bringing in an outsider, like being in a kind of a relationship. I mean, that was kind of on you. Mistakes you made, we'll see. But yeah, getting involved with a married woman and her husband's in the military too, like, it's screaming all kinds of problems. I even love that line of like, oh, she's like, I wish I brought my swimming suit. He's like, well, you don't need one. She's like, oh yeah, how awkward that's going to be when I run into your uncles the next time. Because he's like, yeah, everyone swims in here naked. It's like, a lot of people do. It's like, it is kind of interesting that like a lot of people do. Ironically enough, we know your mom's been one of those people. You wouldn't know that at the time, but it's still just kind of awkward. Once again, just interesting how that history repeats itself. Like, everything going on between him and Penny, and it's like inverse of like Baz and Julia. So not inverse, but I mean, maybe inverse, but more so like a parallel to like Julia and Baz to some extent. Is what I was trying to say. Either way, I didn't even realize like the restaurant they went to was the former, because I don't even know if they changed the name. They probably bought the business, but they probably changed the name. What was formerly Son of a Beach, and it's like, oh, you're late. And the guy's like, oh, he's like, oh, and Jay's like, you think you could just get by just giving us free appetizers? The guy's like, don't worry, I don't want you to bring your uncles out. It's like, motherfucker, who do you think you're doing? And Jay just punched him square in the face. He was like, don't be late again. He's like, okay, I got you. It's like, don't get it twisted. Jay will beat the living shit out of you too. He doesn't need. Don't get it twisted thinking like, oh, I need my uncles to step in. I will handle you myself. And you can tell Penny's kind of picking up on things because she looks at his shirt, sees the blood. He's like, oh, it's ketchup. She's not buying that for an instant. It's ironic because he called out her sister for being an addict, and obviously his mom's an addict, but Jay, and I mean, truth be told, is everyone in that family is an addict, have their own vices. His is power. He's addicted to power and control, you know, because he's never had it most of his life, and now that once you get that taste of that power, absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? So, because it's like, right, you know, what is your stake in that business? He's like, do you really want to know? She's like, I don't know, do I? And the question is, how much is he going to open up about everything that they are and what they do? Because she's not really a full-blown lawyer, so you don't have that client confidentiality. You know, that's why he initially like went to her wanting a lawyer to kind of handle all that criminal side of things, you know, to kind of be in cahoots with about that. But, you know, it's more so like, no, I like you. Plus, there is also that element to it too. But I think that liking her takes precedent over any other like lawyer related stuff she could like serve the Codys as. So, same time all that is happening, we've got the whole Pope thing, and I love that Pope is in such a good mood because Jake kind of brings up like laundering money through the skate park. It's like, right, we can make it a non-profit, put it into like the building the park and stuff like that. It don't have to be like you don't have to take money from anyone. But hearing from Amy made him go like, you know what? Get the papers for the nonprofit. I'll sign it. He's like, really? It's like, yeah. He's in such a good mood. He's like, and then later on, he's at the park. The guy's like, yo, you take it. Oh, is it a lot of noise? It's like, how are you gonna have a lot of conversation? So Pope went to check the place out, and the guy gave him a hookup. He's like, yo, you leave me your name. I'll make sure you get a booth that's kind of further away. Turn down the music a little bit. It's like, yo, no shit. It's like, yo, everything's coming up, Pope. And then you got Detective Thompson herself sneaking in, being like, oh, hey, I'm Louise. I'm Taylor's mom. And it's like, I'm assuming Taylor went underground. I can only assume that's it because he made a point like, I'm done with this. I'm not about to get any further involved. I did what I needed to do. The rest is on you. So I wonder if she's legitimately going to look for Taylor. Like, obviously, I know it's BS, but I wonder on some level, she has police resources. She could find him if she wanted to, but it gave her the perfect excuse because she knows he doesn't want to be found. So she's able to use this to get close to Pope. And he's like, yeah, he's willing to help out and everything. And then the Amy thing, but Amy was kind of trying to back out of the date. But then I think she heard like, oh, I'm trying to help this lady out with her kid. And she's like, oh. All right, I think she's like, right, I'm kind of scared for a second. I think she was worried for a second, but then she realized, like, no, all right. She kind of focused a lot on, like, some of the negative sides of Pope, and that was just a reminder of, like, oh, there's actually some good in him. I know it. I've known it previously, but also hearing about some of it, I think, kind of triggers something in her that she's like, you know what, I'm gonna take this opportunity. So... and I love that while Pope was busy, she took pictures of the gun and stuff, probably trying to see if it matches the bullet for Catherine and such. But and see if they can tie it to anything. But yeah, when Pope, she's like, yeah, I'm sorry if I'm disrupting things. He's like, you are disrupting things. I love how blunt he is. He's like, yeah, the fact is that I am having a pretty good day, and I don't get many of those, and you are interrupting it. So he cut that shit off quick on which benefits you, because the longer you're around her, the more likely she is to get evidence. But him and Amy had their date, and them being both awkward. It's so cute to see Andrew so awkward, because he's an awkward human being. I wonder if there's some form of Asperger's that he kind of has. Because they've never really, like, fully ever, like, there's been inklings and like little elements here and there where they've diagnosed Pope, but I don't think there's ever been anything like clinically official. But I would almost be like, oh, I wonder if there's some form of like Asperger's going on there, but maybe not. I don't know. Because he also has like a little bit of an OCD thing as well. Because I was wondering, like, when the cereal box was backwards, I was like, oh, that's going to be an issue. Well, for one, they made such a point of it, but I'm also like, Pope is very particular, isn't he? And it seems like he is. I'm sure there's plenty of other instances of like that kind of OCD tendency that he has. I mean, to be fair, we've seen it from time to time, like even when he was making his sandwiches early, like a couple episodes back, and he was telling Jay to like get like the square meat and not the circle meat or something like that. So like it's been popped in here and there, but regardless, he's going on him and Amy. She more so than anything she's like, I'm sorry for acting the way I did. You know, it's up to God to judge you, not me or anyone else. He's like, you have nothing to apologize for. She's like, I do. So they're on a good footing. I mean, granted, he's like, we're just friends, but he doesn't have many of those. The last one he had was, I mean, everything between him and Angela. Lo and behold, who shows up, I'm like, don't you think it's a little suspicious that you roll up like that? And it's like, because I guess she heard about him having a date and everything, so she wanted to see who this person was. Notice at the moment Amy pulled away, she made damn sure to memorize that license plate. You know, and it's like, oh, where's your phone? And she's like, yeah, oh, good thing it's here. Thanks for everything. I figured her phone probably legit, because she knew she couldn't come up with some BS reason. She knew she had to actually leave her phone as an excuse. I mean, that made it easier to track him down. I mean, granted, she could have just been following him all day and just Pope never realized it, but she was most likely tracking her own phone and everything. But yeah, Pope is looking at her. He's like super fucking suspicious. And then the moment he goes home, he sees the box in a different place. And he's like, Jay, did you move that and put it back in the wrong place? He's like, no. Are you sure? He's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And in a moment, Pope's like, yo, Pope's paranoid. He's looking around. He's pissed. He knows something. I'm like, yeah. He's like, somebody's been messing with my series. Somebody's been in the house. Like, he had that inkling last episode. Now this kind of cemented it for him. It's like, right. Like, because the only people who are there on a constant basis, it's Jay. So there's no way. If Jay said he didn't do it, someone else had to. So, because I guess, like, Darren and Craig would know to not put... For one, maybe Darren and Craig wouldn't even put it back there. Two, maybe he remembers the last time he got any, and he knows last time he got any of that cereal and who was here last, and they wouldn't have had time at any point in time to... I don't know. But, yeah. Detective Thompson kind of messed up on that regard. But once again, she's got Amy, and that's going to... I wonder how she's going to go about that. Is she going to... Well, she already introduced herself as Louise, and it's like, oh, you coming to me? Well, all she has to do is like, right, I'm investigating Catherine's murder. I think Pope was responsible and try and get... I mean, Amy might, maybe not, I don't know. Knowing about the Catherine thing might... sway her, maybe not. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But then we also get all the stuff in the past where the Baz and Julia thing keeps happening. And her mom is quite the, provocateur. Always like poking the bear with so many different situations. Because she tries to almost get like Pope to turn against him. Because she's like, oh, I hope you're not feeling left out. He's like, I'm not. She's like, oh, okay, they're hanging out together a lot without you. It's like she's trying to start shit. She's trying to instigate stuff. And then later on, she's offering Baz an opportunity to do this job, but it's like, right, you got to be more focused. So he's focusing more on that rather than Julia. So, which Julia is almost kind of like, right, like what we have is kind of nice, but you're so damn, like it's almost like, right, you're fine with me 1 minute, but then the next minute, all you can do is focus on doing what my mom wants you to do. Like, you know, it's like, right, she's not even your mom. Yeah, she took you in and everything, which I love that she's like, oh yeah, your brothers. And she's like, could you not call them that? Because I'm sure it's going to make you feel all kinds of awkward having sex with someone that's being labeled as your brother. It's like, yeah, but you guys are like family. And then, she happens to find Julia's underwear in Baz's sheets. Because it's like, the blue sheets, those aren't mine. Those are Baz's. And I was like, oh, why are your underwear mixed up in that? And it's like, for one, I'm like, why does that bother you so much is what is kind of irking me. But I guess it's like, maybe for her, it's like, I'm just saying, I could definitely see Smurf go, what kind of horse sleeps with her brother or something like that. I could definitely see that and maybe end up telling Pope to kind of make sure things kind of break apart, which that Pope thing is becoming a regular thing now because she calls him Pope and it's like, oh yeah, and like Baz started that. I guess he's still been calling him, he called him that like last episode, but I think he's probably been leaning into it even more post last episode too, so either way, like once again, like controlling everything, but I'm like, I guess Smurf doesn't like things happening without her knowledge, and like them sleep, because now it's like, oh, you're sleeping with Baz, that's distracting him. I need him at the top of his game, and it's almost like I can guarantee you, like, Smurf's personality, she's going to treat Julia like some random floozy, but it's like, yeah, but it's like, once again, it's like, yeah, they're like family, but Julia didn't ask that, and, it's just like, right, she likes Baz, and obviously likes her, but they're both just so adherent to what you want. I mean, Julia's kind of, she probably would do it even more because you would have such an issue with it. I don't know. I'm curious to understand her. I'd be interested to hear her perspective on why such an issue for her necessarily, like, of them being in a relationship, and why that is an issue, other than like the family thing, and once again, maybe just stuff happening without her knowledge. It's like, right, there's stuff happening in my household I had no idea about. Just kind of like Pope and him secretly still going to the church and everything. Like, once again, it's all about having control over a kid. So what that all turns into is definitely going to be interesting, but it's definitely going to lead to some big time issues. Baz probably won't suffer in those ramifications. At most, she'll be like, oh, you need to cut that shit out, or you're not going to do any jobs. I'm not going to take you on your jobs or make you lead anymore. Like, you need to get your head on straight. Think with your brain and not your penis. And probably call Juliet out or something like that. It's just like, yeah, find someone else, just not Baz. Once again, her relationship with her kids is fucking weird. Either way, it's definitely going to be interesting to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.